So unfortunately, I wasn't able to get any audience members aside from my two dogs, even though they don't count. So hopefully, I'll be able to get through this presentation or per se speech without them interrupting me and behaving themselves. I also apologize about my voice if it's a little scratchy. I've been feeling a little under the weather the past couple days. So I'm going to start off with just giving you guys some a scenario to think about. So in the world, there's plenty of illnesses, a lot of these being terminal illnesses, such as cancer or another prevalent one is ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease. With these illnesses, there's a lot of pain and suffering that can come with it. Some of the suffering also comes along with patients suffering from paralysis and even not be or even be having periods where they struggle to breathe. Some of these diseases where there is no cure, patients can be put on something called palliative care, which is just helps reduce the pain and suffering that they endure through the end of their life and make things as comfortable for them. Like I said, though, this only reduces their pain and suffering and doesn't totally take it away, and they still, in their end of their days, will have that suffering that they deal with, and there is no finite way for them to end this suffering currently in the U.S. So, going to start off with in certain countries, there is physician-assisted suicide where there is this finite way to help patients end this pain and suffering. A great example of the benefits of physician-assisted suicide was highlighted in a video done by PBS called The Suicide Tourist. It follows a man where he's diagnosed with one of these terminal illnesses and shows that he's experiencing paralysis and difficulty breathing from the disease he was diagnosed with, and the path on leading him up to his physician-assisted suicide. It shows that he's able to end this pain and suffering that he's been enduring, and in a relatively peaceful and calm way. He was just able to drink a medicine that essentially put him into a sleep he never came out of, and was able to have a very peaceful way of death, surrounded by family and loved ones that everyone was able to cope with relatively well. Though there's these benefits where it takes the suffering away from the patients. One of the big pushbacks in the U.S., especially with physician-assisted suicide, is that the American Code of Medical Ethics, as well as the Hippocratic Oath, states that physicians may not do any harm, and they believe that assisting someone in suicide is causing this harm to them, and they believe that palliative care takes the suffering away from patients, even though when in reality it only reduces it and just prolongs things for them and still has this suffering to them. Though doctors have the Hippocratic Oath of do no harm, by them not allowing physician-assisted suicide, they are indirectly causing some harm to as well. In an article, May Doctors Help You to Die, a woman named Marcia talks about how her father was diagnosed with one of these terminal illnesses, where he was having a great deal of suffering and even on palliative care, but still was dealing with this suffering. So he decided to take matters into his own hands and commit suicide to reduce this suffering that he was dealing with. He had committed suicide through a self-inflicted gunshot wound. This is a very traumatic way for someone to die, and it is a difficult thing for everyone to process, both family members and people involved, and it can cause some psychological trauma for whoever found their loved one, and make it a very hard process for someone to deal with, even if they were dealing with one of these terminal illnesses, such as like cancer, which he was diagnosed with. Again, another one of these, the main counterclaim to all of these arguments is primarily following around the Hippocratic Oath of where doctors may do no harm, even if someone else is causing harm to themselves in the process. Moving on to my third point, as we have the choice to commit suicide, that's a right we have. We all have free will to make our decisions. We also need the legal rights for a more humane method to be allowed in the U.S. Currently in the U.S., we have the rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We're allowed to choose to do with our bodies with what we like. For example, some of these other large debates currently in the U.S. is we allow people to have abortions, to withhold their own medical treatment, and to sometimes live their lives in a slump, but we don't allow them to end their pain and suffering, and allow them to have a peaceful death instead of a more tragic death or years of pain and suffering leading up to it, because some of these illnesses may cause this pain and suffering for a while until their body finally gives up and causes them to die. One of the counterclaims to this is, and the most recent legislation I could find was the Pain Relief Promotion Act that was shot down in Congress. This act was trying to push to allow physician-assisted suicide in the U.S. And one of the kind of main arguments of this was that though the Constitution says we have life, or the rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, it doesn't state that we have the right to death. And going back to the counterclaims for both of the other things is that doctors have the Hippocratic Oath and they must not cause any harm, and that they believe that by allowing physician-assisted suicide, it just will cause more harm than good for patients. Though there's not been any legislation passed in the U.S., there has been in other countries, and this is something that must change in the U.S. so that we may have a more peaceful method for patients to have this dignity in the end of their life and be able to have a peaceful and comforting death instead of a more tragic one. We can see a great change in our society once this is approved too. We're not going to have a lot of patients that are in this palliative care causing stressors on their families, and are able to get relief from themselves, and just an overall better life, though it may be shortened for themselves. We need to one thing we need to do to help allow this is we need to just urge our legislators to both legislators and physicians to allow this to be a standard practice in the U.S. so that we may have this, like I said, dignified death to allow us to reduce the pain and suffering in lives of those with terminal illnesses that greatly impact their lives in a very negative way.